We are here to commemorate Memorial Day, to remember the tens of thousands of Gazan children who are victims of a senseless war and genocide perpetrated by Israel and made possible by American funds and American diplomatic cover and American weapons of war, and also to remember the many service members that have died for a lie, that have been killed they were there to sacrifice themselves for their country, and they have found that they are being sacrificed by the military-industrial complex. We are remembering Aaron Bushnell specifically. He is an American United States Air Force active duty service member that has made the ultimate sacrifice by self-immolating in an attempt to bring awareness to this, and with a pledge to never be complicit in genocide. And we are here to take that pledge as well, that I and every single American of conscience will no longer be complicit in genocide. We will take and make whatever steps possible in order to divest ourselves from this evil and to stand up against it and raise the voices of those who are no longer with us, who no longer can raise their voices, so that this machine can stop, the war can stop, and the genocide is no more.
So you hear a lot of critics of the movement say, well, if they didn't do that on October 7th, none of this other stuff would be happening. So this whole thing started on October the 7th?
Absolutely not. October the 7th was a reaction to a decades-long apartheid system, a genocide that has started in 1948 and has never abated since then, an ethnic cleansing and an attempted extermination that we are now seeing live on our cameras. What we are able to see today in the media and in the way that the media has been able to reach the public through social media and through public media channels is what has been happening to the Palestinian people over the course of decades, since 1948 and in wars in 2003, in 2018, in 2014. Just every few years there is a massive genocidal campaign by Israel in order to eradicate the Palestinian people. And the reality is that the United States is making it possible. There is no genocide without American weapons of war, without American funding, and without American diplomatic cover, and frankly bullying on the global stage and even at home of voices that refuse to support and to promote the murder of children.
I wanted to thank you all for coming out to our event today, sponsored by Veterans Against the Machine and so many other terrific pro-Palestine groups in the area. Today we're here holding a memorial vigil for our own brother-in-arms, Aaron Bushnell, who self-immolated last year in February over the continued complicity of the U.S. in the genocide that's happening in Gaza. We are also holding this memorial vigil to remember all of the Palestinians who have been victims of U.S. imperialism for years now. Memorial Day isn't just memorializing the American people who have died overseas, but also the millions of civilians that have been killed as a result of U.S. aggression. Today, I'm going to be speaking for Veterans Against the Machine, particularly to exactly how Aaron Bushnell changed my life. Today, as the U.S. remembers those who have fallen in the line of duty, let us also not forget the others who were killed. 2 million Vietnamese during the American War in Vietnam, 1.5 million Koreans during the Korean War, hundreds of thousands of Iraqis, millions in some estimates during the Gulf War and the Iraq War, and hundreds of innocent Afghans at checkpoints alone in the war in Afghanistan. Tens of thousands of civilians in Gaza killed by U.S.-funded weapons, and one airman named Aaron Bushnell, who could no longer be complicit in U.S.-backed genocide. I had always been taught to respect Memorial Day as a day when we remember our soldiers who never came home. But when Aaron self-immolated, I was forced to ask myself why our soldiers were being killed overseas in wars in places I couldn't even name on a map. When I raised my hand to join the military, I thought I was going to help protect those who protect us. But now, how can I continue to support the military knowing that our young men and women, many of whom have no other choice, are being sent overseas to wage war for the private gain of the rich in power. This is not patriotism. This is not service. This is butchery, covered in shiny ribbons and medals. Aaron Bushnell saw it, and he refused to be part of it any longer. And now I see it, in the faces of the children who are being starved to death in Gaza, in the constant, mindless defense of atrocities that happen during war. War is hell, but that's not the whole story, is it? The truth is that U.S. militarism takes lives for profit, here and in the places where we fight. If we don't stop it now, how many more people will be memorialized on this day? Let's pledge to work to put an end to the cycle of violence, this Memorial Day and every other after.
Hello, good evening everyone. I'm speaking on behalf of PSO. My name is Eola. Good evening. Today, on this Memorial Day, we honor the life of Aaron Bushnell and his revolutionary sacrifice, his willful martyrdom to protest 77 years of the ongoing Nakba. We honor the lives of all Palestinian people living, resisting, and martyred in the 77 years of Nakba. And on this Memorial Day, we propose something different. This holiday has been used as a celebration of our participation, the people's participation in the litany of unjustifiable imperialist wars. That is to say, wars fought for profit for the imperialist ruling class, and not for the vast majority of people here or abroad. Rather than continuing the empty tradition of reciting jingoistic bromides, let us recognize something more meaningful on this Memorial Day. Aaron Bushnell, a 25-year-old IT airman who hailed from a tiny Massachusetts town and had graduated from Air Force basic training top of his class November of 2020, recognized the atrocities being committed against the Palestinian people and bravely made a statement so bold it could not be ignored. We in the United States, the Imperial Corps, know our impact on the world. Weapons, bombs, and killing machines of all sorts are manufactured here, right down the road in our case, and used in a continuous live-stream genocide. We see the news and see the plans of the administration and the plans of the settlers to reside on stolen land they call Israel. When Aaron committed his act of self-immolation, preceded by his announcement that I will not be complicit with genocide, Rafah still stood strong. Cries of all eyes on Rafah rang out far and wide. Now in the time that has passed since Aaron's courageous sacrifice, Rafah has been reduced to rubble. The genocide has unfortunately expanded in scope and increased in its intensity across all Palestine, but especially in Gaza. Be that as it may, I implore you, do not despair. As Ho Chi Minh, leader of the National Liberation Front of Vietnam, and hero to all colonized people once said, remember the storm is a good opportunity for the pine and cypress to show their strength and stability. We must heed these words. We must weather the oncoming and ongoing storms headed for us. And in the spirit of what Aaron embodied in his final moments, we must stand tall and continue the fight for Palestinians, for Palestine, and for the cause of Palestinian liberation. Even though the brave people of Palestine stand in piles of rubble that were once their homes, with the threat of permanent displacement looming, they still resist and the Intifada lives on. To reflect on our current moment, I would like to highlight another martyr. 22-year-old anti-war activist Norman Morrison, who doused himself in kerosene and set himself on fire below the office of then Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara at the Pentagon to protest the escalating genocidal war waged by the United States against the people of Vietnam. 6 months before Norman Morrison took his own life, President Lyndon Johnson had authorized the genocidal deployment of napalm against the people of Vietnam, escalating the carpet bombing that was killing thousands of civilians each week. Morrison's act was also in line with the self-immolation protests carried out by the Buddhist monks in South Vietnam to protest the South Vietnamese public government. Look at Vietnam now. Far removed from the yoke and brutality of imperialism, they are an independent nation. They never stop fighting. And anti-war activists across the world never stop fighting with them. Remember this as we see the situation in Palestine escalate. Remember the actions of Aaron and Norman, and try as you must not to lose hope. As the light rose again for the enemies, so shall it rise again for the Palestinians. Aaron, Norman, and every last life cut short at the hands of the genocide committed by the boast, criminal, settler colonial state of Israel shall be a constant reminder of why we must fight, why we must protest, why we must never forget or stop talking about these martyrs and atrocities that motivate them to make the ultimate sacrifice. Daniel Ellsberg, the whistleblower responsible for exposing the lies and cover-ups the U.S. government was using to obscure the truth about the war in Vietnam, witnessed Norman Morrison's self-immolation. He was horrified and transformed by it. This, along with a mass anti-war protest sweeping the country, affected him so deeply that he sacrificed his entire career, risking his freedom and his life, and took action in opposition to the war. People like Daniel and Norman are the kinds of heroes we should memorialize in America. And for those of this current generation, for those witnessing the current genocide in Palestine, the legacy of the martyr Aaron Bushnell should be remembered and celebrated. All around the world, we see rising solidarity and more support for the cause of the Palestinian people. In our lifetime, we will see an end to the genocide. We will see an end to the false claims of the settlers, and we will see a free Palestine. The sacrifice of all Palestinian martyrs will be honored through national liberation. Let us, too, never forget our own heroes and martyrs who have inspired us to do more here at home.
An Army veteran and a student. I'm here representing the Central Florida branch of the Students for Justice in Palestine as we remember the heroic sacrifice of the American martyr Aaron Bushnell, as well as every single one of the Palestinian martyrs and all of those lost in the struggle against settler colonialism, against war, for a free Palestine and a truly free world. That's a funny word, isn't it? Freedom. Back when I was at Fort Bragg in the 82nd Airborne, we had this colonel. He used to like to call the whole battalion out. Sit us down in the sun, blazing heat, to give us lectures, speeches on freedom. Right? These kinds of things are common from officers. You know, they can make you form up, but they can't make you listen. Right? Most of the soldiers out there, they got their eyes closed, they're daydreaming about the weekend, or they're silently cursing everything around them until they can go back inside. But on this particular day, I was called out of my daydream. The colonel, he was praising the unit, talking about our lethality, calling us the tip of the spear, all that type of stuff that would be motivational if anybody cared. Then he said something. He let his mask down. He said something, I can still remember the exact words. He said, our job is to bring freedom to people that don't want it. Now that woke me up. I started thinking, hold on. How do you do that? Right? If people aren't free, wouldn't they want to be? Wouldn't they be fighting to be free? And how are you going to make them be free? What? Are you going to force them? Right? Why is force even required? I thought to myself right there in that formation, if we were going to force them to be free, best thing to do would be leave them alone. Right? They'll certainly be freer that way than with our trucks rolling up and down the streets of their cities and towns, showing them how to be free. Thing was, the kind of freedom the colonel wanted to bring wasn't the kind of freedom that anyone would choose for themselves. Right? This is that classic American freedom. Freedom from healthcare, freedom from housing, freedom from an education, that freedom to starve, freedom to work. Meanwhile, those people overseas, the ones we were meant to bring freedom to, they had their own ideas about what freedom was. Right? To be free from the domination of foreign powers. To be free to build up their own country the way they choose. To be free to live their own way of life in their own fucking country. For the colonel, you see, that's the problem, right? What they were doing was getting in the way of American corporations' freedom to go around pillaging the whole world. They were fighting back, and we were the aggressors, not the liberators. right here, today, at UCF, at every fucking military formation all around the goddamn world. Alright, all them military formations around the world, all those people, and us right here, today. We have a piece of freedom. We can choose whether we're going to listen to that colonel, whether we're going to take the side of the generals and the corporations and be complicit in their crimes, or if we're going to listen to Aaron. We're going to take the side of the Palestinian people.
I am an active duty member of the United States Air Force, and I will no longer be complicit in genocide. I'm about to engage in an extreme act of protest, but compared to what people have been experiencing in Palestine at the hands of their colonizers, it's not extreme at all. This is what our ruling class has decided will be normal.
Can I help you, sir?
Free Palestine!
Hey!